So I just got back from my tour of Europe and I thought I'd do a quick lowdown of what was useful and what wasn't of the kit I took. So just empty my panniers onto the table here. This is pretty much everything that was on the bike. So I'll start over here at the left. The cap was very useful in the sun, keeps the sun off your eyes. Plastic shoes, very helpful for going in the shower, just walking around in general. They're a bit comfy in the bike shoes, jumper. 2 pairs of boxers, there's only one here. But 2 pairs, you only need 2 because then you can wash one on one day on the back of the bike and be wearing one and then just rotate them around. Anything else is just extra weight you don't need. Socks, 2 pairs, again, same reason. I had 2 t-shirts, one of them's in the wash at the minute. Same reason, you just need 2 of anything you're going to sweat in. It's all going to get disgusting anyway, so it doesn't really matter. If you bring 3, you're just carrying the extra weight, and you can only wash one at a time and wear one anyway, so whatever. 2 sort of long john, these are just Helly Hansen. This is like a big sort of t-shirt thing. It's hard to hold and do it, but yeah, that's long sleeve and just long john trouser thing, so just keep you warm at night up the Alps. It can be pretty cold in the evening, especially if you've got a sort of lightweight sleeping bag like this. It doesn't give you much protection in the cold. This one's only rated down to 5 degrees. So it got a bit cold in that before. Other kit, I took this. This is my uni t-shirt. It just says Uni of Nottingham on the back, which was fun because it just meant when you're walking around the campsite at night, people can see where you're from and you sort of bump into people who know sort of the area and whatnot. Just shows that you're English and people can come and speak to you. What else? This pillowcase, I kept all the clothes go in the pillowcase in the daytime and just stick that in the pannier. And then all the clothes that I'm not wearing or washing go in the pillowcase overnight, and that's a pillow. And you can sleep with that, so you don't have to bring an inflatable one. That worked very well for me. No problems at all with that. Some people think it's uncomfortable, but I didn't really have a problem. This was good. This is I had 2 jackets actually. I had these 2 jackets. So this one is a bit lighter weight. It's sort of see-through. So it only weighs about 50 grams or something, but that's good for descending. So when you get to the top of a mountain, which you do a lot of in the Alps, you can fly down that and it'll keep the wind off you, but you won't get too hot in that. Whereas this one's a lot heavier, and it's super reflective. So this is good for if you're riding at night, which I did a few times, and it's just fully waterproof as well. But it's also got breathing flaps under the arms, which are really helpful. So that is I think Boardman do one as well, but this is a Reflect 360, just about 100 quid or something, and this is a Morvello Plan B jacket. That's about the same price. These are basically the only 2 bits of cycle kit I actually took. Everything else I wore was just normal clothes. I didn't really like the cycle kit. It just gets, it's gross because it's so close to your body, because it's sort of clingy. It just gets really gross. So flappy, sort of slightly lighter weight. This is just sort of it's not a Nike t-shirt, but that sort of thing. That works much better for me. The last piece of clothing I wore, I had a pair of shorts, but they were so gross. I just stuck them straight in the wash when I got back. You don't want to go near those. This was amazing. I just bought this on Amazon. It's called an Ultra Sport. It's supposed to be like a running waistband, but actually I managed to stick my passport in it. I had this whistle, so just in case I went flying off the side of a mountain, I had a whistle with me, which this just came in the first aid kit. I kept this spare phone in there as well with the passport. So, because I use my phone on the bars of the bike, the quad lock, which is the best thing ever, the quad lock. But I wanted to have a phone just on my person all the time, so just in case I went flying off the mountainside, left the bike at the top of the mountain, I'm halfway down it. I always had a phone on my body, so I just kept the BlackBerry there. That had the battery removed, so it was always fully charged. Pen knife. This was awesome. I used this basically as just my companion. I couldn't live without that. It's just the knife on it is just invaluable. Cards, driving license, cash. That's the English money in there because that was the last day I came back. Just kept all my change in here, and just kept it in both sides. But yeah, this was awesome. And I could wear this while cycling, and it wasn't any problem at all. And yeah, I could fit the passport in it. I wasn't expecting to be able to get the passport in there, and it just meant that whenever I left the bike at the side of the road, I didn't have to sort of visibly take a load of valuables out of it. on the show I was carrying loads of stuff, I could just have that under my top, and it wasn't like a massive fanny pack that you can get. So that's clothing. This was good. This is food bag. This is just a crappy, it's not a dry bag or anything, it's just a little bag that I had knocking about. I kept all my food in there, but the food's not that interesting, so I'll leave that. But it's good to keep things in their own bags in the panniers, because then I can just yank that out and know that all the food was in there when I wanted to eat. So what else? Sunscreen. Didn't really use as much of that as I probably should have. Well, sunscreen. First aid kit, didn't need that at all. I never opened it, but it's good to have there just in case. It's just got actually I did use it once for a cut. Just use a plaster. Tubes. I didn't need any of my tubes all the way through France or Switzerland, and then in Germany I got like 4 punctures, and it's just unlucky, but always carried tubes. I did end up walking to bike shops twice because I didn't have enough tubes with me, so that was annoying. This is my pump. I thought this would be a really good one, the Lenzai one. I don't know if I use it wrong, but it has a habit of yanking the valve out of the tube, so with the Presto valve, it may just be that I use it wrong, but it sometimes, because you screw it onto the valve, it will, when you put a load of pressure in there, this the top valve will actually unscrew on the way out, which is really annoying, and that's cost me a few tubes. But it may just be that I'm not using the pump right, but I don't really like this pump, so I wouldn't really recommend that one. A bit of rag, always helpful, just clean the chain down with that. I found at the campsites, loads of them had hose pipes that you could just use and wash the chain down, wash the bike down, and then clean the grease off with that. Brake pads, didn't use them because I couldn't really be asked to change them, but I probably should have. But anyway, the pads that I took out there came back with me fine. Gear cable, again, didn't need. Would have been useful to have, well, it was useful to have just in case, but it doesn't really weigh anything, so that was fine. I had to tape it up because the paper got wet and broke. I don't want it to bend. So that was basically most of the bike kit. There was just a set of anchors up here, which I'll go to in a minute. Kindle was very useful. I don't need to say much more about the Kindle, but yeah, that was great. Solar panel, which the solar panel works well, but I didn't use it that much this year because I wasn't really going as off-grid as I thought I might do. I didn't really do any stealth camping, so I was actually able just to plug into the sockets in the bathrooms at the campsites, which I didn't know I'd be able to do when I went out. So the solar panel didn't get as much use as I thought it would, but it was still cool to have just in case. So I always knew that whatever happened, I would be able to charge up as long as there was a bit of sun, and this would do sort of a couple of days charges if you left it out in the sun for the day. I could just stick it on the back of the panniers. It would work, but it was just more effort than just sticking it into if you go and find like where the dishwasher or the washing machines are at the campsite, you can always find a socket there, or in the bathroom you should set to the shaver sockets. 2 pairs of shades. I had a cycling one and a slightly less rubbish looking pair. I mostly just use the ones. I probably wouldn't bother with these ones next time, because I also carried some plain ones, and these ones were mostly just for descending because they wrap around. They're actually exactly the same as the darker ones. They're just in Jura or something. They're fairly cheap. I'd really like some photovoltaic ones, but or photochromatic, or whatever the word is. But it's cheaper, much cheaper for me just to have a pair of sunny ones and a pair of sunny ones and a pair of dark ones. So they were good. I like the glasses. So these ones are over here because I kept them inside the Apogee. Sorry for the cut, I got interrupted. So this is the Apogee bag. This was really, really awesome. So this goes on the frame, and you can get into this while you're riding. So I kept anything that I didn't want to have to stop before I could access while I was riding. What I keep in here? This the battery pack. This was really, really helpful. You've got to take one of these with you, so you can charge this up off the solar or as the off the campsites, as I was saying. And then if you keep it at the front here, the wire will reach up to to your phone on the front, or your Garmin, or whatever it is that you want to charge. Lip seal, you get chapped lips when you're riding, especially up down the mountains. Allen key, just because I couldn't be asked to go rooting around in the panniers to find that whenever I wanted to do a quick repair or something. It was just tiny, it didn't really cause any problems. I just got one bar here because that's all that was left when I came back, but I would keep this stuffed up with any sort of cereal bars, or you can get some bread in there, you get an apple in there, and just basically whenever you stop, just make sure you've loaded the front bag up with whatever food that you want until you next stop, and then you don't have to pull over to the side of the road every time you want to eat an apple or cereal bar or whatever, so that was really helpful. I would buy a lot of those sort of the pre-packed croissants that come in little plastic individual things, and just stuff the bag full of croissants, and then you can just munch on them all day. This was awesome. This is just a sort of a ski lock, but it was a really handy little lock that I could keep in here, so I wouldn't have to go and pull out the massive kryptonite lock every time I wanted to just pull over to the side of the road and go into a shop and pick up a cafe or something. This was much less of a pain to set up, and in the small little village towns you don't need a big lock. This is only really for cities and overnight or whatever. Keep the lube in the front because I'm always using this. So this it's just a little bottle of chain lube. I think it's pretty empty now. But anytime you hear a bit of chain squeak, I just stick this on. And the good thing about the dry lube is that it'll wash off really easily. If you take the wet lube, it's a lot stickier, and you can't just get it off the chain. So when you go to a campsite, if you just run a hose pipe over this stuff and just give it a rub with the rag or some lube roll or whatever, it will pull all the lube and all the crap off, whereas the dry lube, the wet lube is a lot stickier. So even if you're going in rainy weather, this is really good, but you'll get through quite a lot of it, because I was applying this maybe every day, sometimes twice a day if I did a long ride, just to keep the chain going, because it did get pretty filthy. So that was the kit that I was carrying. Also a spoon here, just because it was handy to be able to have access to that. I would open a lot of tins of sweet corn or yogurts and things, and just have a spoon at the front instead of having to go rooting through the panniers to find a spoon was really handy. And lastly, I kept the bike key in the front there, just so I could access that quickly. So moving on, the kryptonite lock was really awesome. It's quite lightweight, it's a lot smaller than other D-locks I've used, and that was really secure. I never really felt like I was at risk when I left the bike with the kryptonite and the cable, even when I went to the big cities. So that was good. Sleep setup was fairly simple. It had these three things. This is the tent. I had the sleeping bag, but this is a very light sleeping bag. It's about 50 quid. Air mattress. I didn't really like this one. It popped on me. So this would go down overnight. So it's supposed to come with a 2-year warranty, but I didn't keep the receipt, so I don't know if Decathlon will let me change that. I'm going to give it a go though. But when it was functional, this was really great. It's just that it did pop, so it would only keep air in for about 3 hours, and then I'd wake up with it sort of on the ground, and I got a bit bruised. So I wouldn't necessarily recommend that one there. The tent, this is a Jack Wolfskin Gossamer or something tent. It was alright. I don't know if it was about 100 quid. I don't know if I would go for a slightly bigger one next time. This was a little one-man tent, and you couldn't sit up straight in it, which was a bit annoying. I think I had my eye on the the MSR. The MSR backpacker tent is a little bit higher, so you can actually sit up in the tent, which is a little bit more livable. Sometimes when it was raining and there was no you're in a mountain, so there's no actual pub to go to or whatever. It is a bit miserable laying down flat in this tent, sort of trying to have an evening when you can't actually sit up. So yeah, the tent was okay. I wouldn't rave about it, but it kept me dry, kept me warm, so that was good. Hygiene wise, didn't really take too much. These are just some face wipes that you can, you just clean your hands, clean your face with that, get rid of a bit of sweat. So that was always handy to keep clean. And these were really good. This is just like, so it's an alternative to loo roll. It's a lot lighter weight than the loo roll. For me, trying to keep loo roll in the bags was a pain in the ass, because it would get soggy if you have a water bottle leak or something. It does happen, just you get a bit of wet in the panniers. So that wasn't really handy, whereas this is it's already wet, so it's no problem. You need a lot less of it, because it's they're sort of more white than paper. And also you can buy these little packs. You don't have to buy like a 6-pack and leave 5 of the rolls sitting in the car park of the supermarket. So those are really good. They're a lot gentler as well, which is nice when you're riding for so long. Moisturizer, it's always good to keep soft hands, especially when you're getting full of callus from the bike. On the bike, I didn't really use gloves because I found them really annoying, because they just get sweaty and horrible. So I just rode with bare hands and just kept myself moisturised. So lastly is just the charger. So this was my power plug, so I just had some converters. What I would have done ideally is just bought a French socket, and then I wouldn't have needed any converters, but I mean I didn't. They would have been good next time. I had to buy this one in Switzerland because my French socket didn't fit in the Swiss plugs. I'm not sure if you can get a plug that would go in the French sockets and the Swiss sockets, and that would have been a lot more handy, and it's just much smaller as well. I did find once or twice that people would actually unplug this my socket, rightly so, because I'd be when you plug this in to like a multi-socket in the bathroom, you take up about 4 sockets worth of space, because it's just so bulky and people can't get plugged in. So it's fair enough for them to unplug you, but it was a bit annoying when it happened. So I would have rather just take a tiny little cigarette lighter sized Euro plug socket to charge. There's no real reason to take a UK plug if you're going to go travelling for 2-3 months. iPhone cables were a nightmare. I had 3 of them. 2 of them gave out, and then one of them was looking pretty rubbish when I came back. So I bought another one in the supermarket. I would have probably bought better quality ones before I went out there. So maybe ones with like a braided cable and a bit more defence on there, because it was quite stressful when the iPhone cables started knocking out, because I didn't know if I'd be able to keep myself charged up. But it was useful to know that I had the spare phone, so I could always I wouldn't lose contact with the world. I would only just lose my maps and my Strava and everything. I could still browse the web and stuff on the BlackBerry, and just find where the next supermarket is. Look at a map, but just it's not quite as good on the old phone. And then this is just an Android cable for charging up my lights and my Kindle and the battery. So that was that. So yeah, that's pretty much all the kit I took that I can think of. So hopefully this is useful for anyone planning to send the tour. Yeah, okay.